Here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Again, big winning over the weekend. Yep, got it done. And this is where's Barack Obama? Where is Barack Obama to come out and say what a BFD this is? What a big freaking deal getting this Build Back Better mini plan done. The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 passed through the Senate. Important piece of legislation. And I'm wondering, where's Barack Obama? Where is Barack to say that, hey, this took some skill. This took a lot more skill than it took to get the Affordable Care Act pushed through. Remember, Obama had 59 senators. You had 2 independents who caucused with Democrats. You had 57 Democrats and 51 Republicans. You're in a what? You got 2 independents. You've got 48 Democrats, and you've got 50 Republicans. You're in a 50-50 kind of world. Much more difficult to get legislation pushed through, and yet Joe Biden getting it done. So I got to tell you, surprised me. This guy getting up, doing the work, and for all of the messaging we hear out of the right wing about, oh, he's just slow and he's old and he's feeble, he's killing it. Absolutely killing it. And this Inflation Reduction Act, call it whatever you have to. Again, historic thing. Something done on climate change. We're going to actually do something. We've been talking about it since, what did I read? I read something that Daniel Patrick Moynihan wrote about this back in the 60s. That, hey, we should probably do something on this carbon thing. We might want to, I start addressing this. It was like 57 years ago. And we've done nothing, finally, this administration. And again, horribly unpopular, we're told. Everyone unhappy. In fact, I drive to work every day and I see like 5 or 6 people with the very family value F Joe Biden flags flying from their Christian flags, which is weird, very weird, But here's the thing: getting the work done, and this a big deal. Where's Obama? This is what I want to know. Where's Barack to come out and say, hey, nice job, Joe. Big deal. I want to hear it. I want to hear the words out of Obama's mouth. Put those comfortable shoes on you didn't use during your administration and get out there and push this, because this is a big deal. Doing something on the climate front, doing something to lower prescription drug prices for older folks, of which most of us are going to be at some point. Doing something, if your thing is if you're a deficit hawk, doing something on that part. Now the fighting inflation part, there's some arguments, but this a huge deal. Now, because of how screwed up our Senate is, they had to go through the budget reconciliation process. Had to do what you had to do. Again, this is the mastery of Joe Biden. Being able to keep those 50 cats all in the same plane, didn't have anyone decide that they were going to go off. That is a big accomplishment. Now, what we know from the numbers, there's going to be about $433 billion of investment. We're going to bring in about $739 billion in revenue, and they're going to use about $300 billion in deficit reduction. I know for our reduction fetishists, that will be music to their ears. But, this more than $300 million of investments in energy and climate reform, this is big. It is the largest federal investment in clean energy in the history of this country. That, again, where's Barack? BFD, man. Now understand, the Build Back Better plan had $550 billion of investment. That would have been better, but hey, $300 billion ain't bad. It's moving in the right direction. $60 billion of it will be for renewable energy. renewable infrastructure, building stuff, wind turbines, solar panels, those charging stations that we're going to need if everyone's going to eventually down the road have electric vehicles. Good idea. Also going to have some tax credits, because I know Republicans, they love tax credits, even though they weren't in favor of this bill. But the tax credits for electric vehicles, and to help folks transition into better technology, to more efficient things for their homes. The heat and cool pumps for your homes, better energy efficient appliances and windows and stuff. I think is a good idea. Good idea. Also going to help the economy, create jobs. If we made those things here. That's the other part of this. I wish we made more of that stuff. And this might be a good idea to have a Buy American provision in this as well. So we encourage manufacturing. Now, Democrats are saying that these simple actions are going to reduce greenhouse gas emission by about 40% by 2029. The White House is saying they'd like to see that target 50%. We'll see. But again, historic. We haven't done this. And my entire life, we've been talking about how are we going to deal with the climate issue. As a kid, I remember Jimmy Carter putting solar panels in the White House. I also remember Ronald Reagan ripping them off. This is that moment. Now, here's the question. Are we in another one of these moments? Jimmy Carter saying, hey, we're gonna go in a different path. Country, we're going down a road that's going to secure the future for generations to come. Are we in a moment where we're making historic changes? Hey, we're going to invest in the future, only to have the next guy come along, whoever that is going to be, and completely undo it, and then make sure that we're on the dirty stuff for another 50 years, 40, 50 years. I hope not. Hope not. Also, this legislation going to lower prescription drug costs because, hey, we're going to negotiate for lower drug costs with Medicare. Not all of them, mind you. Evidently just 10 in 2026. So not in a big hurry to negotiate those drug prices, but it's coming. It's coming. And then in 2029, they're gonna double that up to 20 drugs. Yeah. There will be a cap on insulin costs, $35 for people on Medicare, just people on Medicare, not anyone else. And we'll get to that. Also caps out-of-pocket expenses at $2,000 for people on Medicare. Again, for someone who at some point hopes to be on Medicare, this is a good thing. Also a 3-year extension for the subsidies for the ACA, something we absolutely needed. Good stuff. Helpful, moving us in a positive direction. Like it. Now, how are you going to pay for it? Because we hear Republicans all the time, how are you going to pay for it? Simple. Tax corporate America, who's been walking away from paying their share for a very long time. This alternative minimum tax should have been there all along. And there is a 15% on corporations that have profits over $1 billion. Not a lot of those. Not your mom and pops, so don't lose your mind. I heard a guy the other day say, I got a small business, and they're going to tax me. A minimum of 50. I'm going, you making $1 billion in profit? No. Then shut up. Because this isn't you. This is the same argument that they were making about the estate tax. Everyone believes, I'm going to have to pay taxes when I die. Are we worth $11 million? Well, no. Then shut up. This is going to be on companies making over $1 billion who, like Amazon, who for years got away with paying zero. The current corporate tax rate is 21%. How is it the current corporate tax rate is 21%, but there's going to be a minimum of 15? How is that possible? Well, lots of loopholes. And we didn't close all those loopholes, so there's still a way to fudge the numbers. But we're saying, hey, if you make over $1 billion, you're going to have to pay 15%, unless you come up with another gimmick and move those profits probably somewhere else to shield it in a different way. I'm sure there will be another gimmick, but this is a pretty big win. It is a pretty big win. So pretty happy to see that. Now, for you fetishists on the deficit side, there will be money in there to lower the deficit. The Democrats are claiming it's going to help lower inflation. Republicans say it's going to make inflation worse. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, says, it's going to be negligible. hit or miss. I'm in the hit or miss part, and I'm in the part where I don't care. This isn't what's in it for me. What's in it for me is we're doing something on climate. We're doing something to help seniors and Granny to get the drugs they need without going broke. We're making sure that the folks get health care, and we're taxing corporate America. All check, all good things in my view. So a start in the way, and look, the reality is Biden ran on this. These are pledges ticked off the box. He ran on, hey, we're going to cap the cost at $2,000. We're going to get the $35 insulin. Couldn't get the $35 insulin for everyone. And gee, I wonder why. Could it be what I always say? And that is Republicans hate working people. And the answer is yes. For the umpteenth time, Republicans hate working people. Because again, now I've yet to meet anyone who goes, insulin should be $500 a vial. That we shouldn't have a cap on $35 because it's like $10 to make, from what I'm told. I've yet to meet anyone who doesn't think it's a good idea to cap insulin at $35 because it's one of those life-saving things. But more importantly, it's one of those things that if you don't take it, it makes things a lot worse. So it's like a preventative thing, because if you don't manage your diabetes and you don't keep everything in check and you're not taking the insulin, then they start chopping things off you. And that's much more expensive in a whole bunch of worlds. Not a great idea. But Republicans decided that no, can't have this. The Senate parliamentarian ruled that this provision could not be in the reconciliation bill, and Republicans saw an opportunity to stick it to Democrats and ultimately to working people, and that's why this is not in the legislation. It can only be in the Medicare part. So working folk, you got screwed again. Why? Well, because Republicans hate working people. But this brings me back to this moment where, this administration, they've been killing it. I mean, and I said this last week, the fact that if Trump had, a half of these accomplishments, any administration, if they'd had these accomplishments this soon, they'd be tap dancing in the streets. But we've got a corporate-controlled media structure in this country that's, the narrative is, Joe Biden's horrible. Joe Biden's, every bad thing is Joe Biden's fault. And the reality is this administration is just simply killing it. And look, on the foreign policy front, the next big win, they killed the Al-Qaeda leader we've been looking for over 20 years. There's talk that there's going to possibly be an agreement with Iran that maybe we're going to take down some of that heightened tension. There's some opportunities ahead. I'm guardedly optimistic, and I'm telling you, good stuff. Let's go to the phones. We got Julie in Minneapolis on the line. Julie, how are you today?
Hi. Well, I feel like I can breathe a little bit lighter today, just
Good.
A little bit, not much, but a little bit, because of this bill. I wanted to jump in with something. It's great that seniors are being helped, but also people on disability. Before COVID, we had about 7.5, 8 million people who were on disability, either long-term or short-term disability, and those individuals get Medicare also. So those individuals, I would imagine now with long-term COVID, we might have 12 or 13 million Americans on disability, and they will be helped with lower prices with Medicare. I wanted to throw out, we know what Manchin got. Do you know what Kristen Sinema got as a goodie, getting together and doing this thing?
Yeah, didn't they chuck out the carried interest, the carried interest thing? Didn't the hedge fund managers get to keep their carried interest? So that was one of the things.
I know the rich guys, they got everything, but specifically, what did she get for her state,
I don't. I thought that's what she wanted. That was the carried interest, the loopholes and all that.
Is that all she wanted? Oh, okay. That's it. Yeah. If anybody knows anything extra, I know. That's kind of amazing if that's the only thing that she wanted. I just read in the paper here that both of them got big gains for their states. So maybe that is all she got. But anyway, I know a lot of people are mad, but I'm a little bit glad today.
What are you mad about? I mean, you got
Well, I think a lot of people are mad about the fossil fuel give back.
Yeah.
They are. But I'm not thinking about that. I'll just have to say one more thing. I was a kid in school. I'm a boomer, so I'm older than you are, Rick. But I'm serious. The year was 1968, and I remember our teacher talking about the environment, some new thing. And there was a book called The Silent Spring that had been written, a year or two before. And he was very excited about it, and he was talking about it. And, wow, that was like 55 years ago, Rick. That's when I first started thinking about the environment.
Yeah.
55 years ago, Rick.
Yeah, and think about it. We're finally, after all this time, going to maybe start thinking about moving in a direction we're going to do something.
Yeah, let's hope and pray, like you say, the next guy that comes in doesn't destroy this. The only thing we can do is if we as a people, we just stand up and rebel. No, you're not going to destroy this. We can't let the next guy, we can't let the next Republican that becomes president destroy this,
Amen.
Right? That's the only thing we can do. Just stand up and say no.
That's it. Learn the lesson. Absolutely. Appreciate the call, Julie.
Thank you.
Outstanding
Bye.
stuff. No, I mean, that's the lesson right there. Learn the lesson of the Reagan years. Don't allow them to do it again. That's simple. But here's the thing. I'm not even all that upset with Manchin and Sinema because that's how our game is played. Our game is played by you use the leverage to bring things back, bring the bacon back to your state, because that's how you get reelected. I'm not one of those guys who, I'm against pork barrel spending or earmarks. No, I'm in favor of it. That's how we get museums and libraries and hospitals, and we evaluate what they bring back. Now I am interested to find out what. Thanks for that, Julie. Now I am interested to find out what Kirsten Sinema got outside of her handouts to Wall Street. If you know, email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I really now I gotta know. rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. Right back after this. If you're just joining us, make sure you grab the podcast. Never miss a moment. Also, make sure you share with your friends. Wherever you find your podcast, you'll find ours. Right back after this. Stick around. If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our labor history in 2 segments, and you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. Generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So the big news of the day, if you were waiting for it, and it's a big one. The FBI today did in fact execute a search warrant of Mar-a-Lago. They went in. They searched the Trump's house. They actually, according to Trump, they broke into his safe. He could have opened it for him. He could have opened the combination, said there's what in it, but no. According to him, they broke into it, and I would argue that maybe that's because he made them do that. But he put out a statement that these are dark times for our nation as my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago, in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided, and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. Yeah, well, we've never had kind of a criminal like you before. who did as much criming. He says, after working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate. This is prosecutorial misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and an attack by the radical left Democrats who desperately don't want me to run for president in 2024, especially based on recent polls, and who will likewise do anything to stop Republicans and conservatives in upcoming midterm elections. He says such an assault could only take place in a broken third world country. Sadly, America has become one of those countries, corrupt at a level not seen before. I'd argue those 4 years, corrupt at a level never seen before, which is why we're seeing this going on right now. I do find it interesting that we see photos of documents that were ripped up and thrown into the toilet by Donald Trump, which evidently is his preferred method of disposal of documents. Now here's the weird part. I gotta wonder which FBI agent had to dig his hand down in the toilet to check the for the toilet for documents. I gotta wonder. Let's go to the phones real quick. We got Gary in Minneapolis on line 2. Gary, how we doing today?
Good. How you doing? The lady was on there. She was asking like Christian. I heard one thing Christian Cinema got for supporting the bill. It was money or help for drought relief in Arizona. And talking about environment also, what really bummed me out was when those judges stopped the voting and put in Bush over Gore, because Gore was really dedicated to that. Was going to see what he could do on the environment.
Yeah, that would have been Sandra Day O'Connor. Yeah, thanks, Sandy.
Yeah, you know, Gore did get 100 some votes more than Bush after they were done counting afterwards. So, anyway, I don't know. We're the only country, I think, where a person running for to be ahead of the country doesn't win the popular vote and gets in there a lot. So, well, I guess that's it. So, you have a good night.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. No, and look, you didn't hear Al Gore whining and complaining and say the whole thing was rigged when it really was. You go back to, and since Gary brought it up, you go back to what Jeb Bush did in Florida and Katherine Harris to relive that. They threw 90,000 people off the voting rolls because they said they were quote unquote felons. They weren't. They just happened to have names that sounded kind of similar. There was the whole voting while black scandal. And you think those 90,000 people would have voted a particular way, perhaps? Yeah, perhaps. But yeah, that's it's something we can't go back and change. But I looked today, the big news. What is this going to mean? What did the FBI find? I gotta wonder. Now, there's part of me that goes, would Trump really be dumb enough to leave things laying around at this juncture? Is he really that? No. Really? Well, we'll see. Hopefully we get to find out what's in this. Hopefully an orange jumpsuit is in the future, because I think he'd look good in orange. I think our Marmalade Mussolini would look good in an orange jumpsuit, picking up litter on the side of the highway, don't you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1902. That was the day more than 100 trade union delegates representing thousands of working people in St. Paul, Minnesota, elected Charles James to be the president of the city's Trades and Labor Assembly. Virtually forgotten by history, James is considered to be the first African-American elected to a city labor council anywhere in America. He was born in 1866 in St. Paul and began working as a leather cutter for local shoe manufacturers at age 15. This was at a time when most African Americans were excluded from skilled trades. His biographer Dave Riley asserts that it is unclear when James became involved in union politics and organizing. Shoemaking was the largest mass production industry in St. Paul, employing thousands. Riley notes that the Knights of Labor had been active in the city during the 1880s, and shoe workers were among the first to organize. By 1899, James had become the first president of a newly formed shoe workers union in Minneapolis, and helped to found 3 more locals in St. Paul. By 1902, James was well known and well respected throughout the Twin Cities as a strong union leader. He served 3 terms as president of the Trades Assembly and then as secretary for 7 more years. Riley states that James continued as a full-time organizer and district business agent, traveling to cities across the Midwest to organize shoe workers. When he died in 1923, the Boot and Shoe Workers Union eulogized him in their national journal. Though James had been obscured from local labor history for decades, Riley and others have worked to write Charles James back into the history books. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
Work your fingers to the bone. What do you get? Bony fingers. This 1960s song, mocking the vaunted virtue of working hard, is being sung today with new meaning by all kinds of employees, from factory workers to teachers, and even a few upper-floor executives. The rebellion here is not merely over low pay, but particularly about the unrelenting nature of work itself, the all-consuming job imperative, as if that's your life. Go 40 to 60 hours a week, 50 to 52 weeks a year for half a century or more, then die. Is that all there is? Is that all we are? Amazingly, this existential, truly revolutionary question is one that millions of hardworking people today throughout our top-down corporate system are asking themselves, their families, and friends. Why are we working like this? Why does it matter? What else is there? Airline pilots, for example, have stunned the industry by prioritizing non-monetary demands in their current contract negotiations with the Big Four monopolistic airline giants. The bosses have offered 14% pay hikes, but pilots are demanding something more meaningful, structural changes to improve their quality of life. They're routinely frustrated by management's inept scheduling, inadequate staffing, and onerous work rules that leave them stressed out, dangerously fatigued, and even stranded far from home. The bottom line is not to get another dollar, but being able to plan and enjoy a non-work life. You absolutely cannot address quality of life with money, says the president of the pilots union at Southwest Airlines. You're never going to pay someone enough for a lost piano recital with their daughter or a lost baseball game. This is Jim Hightower saying, there are many compromises required to make a living these days, but we humans are finally beginning to say, enough. You can buy my hard work, but not my life.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So while the big story of the day, there's been a bunch of them. Look, I mean, the fact that we're going to get historic investments in doing something on climate change, something we're going to help Granny with prescription drugs. And, oh, by the way, former president's house has been raided and his safe has been broken into by the FBI. Yeah, just that. Still my favorite story of the day is this one. Evidently, according to this book that's coming out, The Divider, Trump in the White House by Peter Baker and Susan Glazer. Evidently, Trump wanted his generals to be, like Hitler's generals. And, I guess someone had to explain to him that Hitler's generals tried to kill him a number of times. Yeah, he is that stupid. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on the big stories of the day. I've asked our good friend Chris Hahn to come share some thoughts. Chris is a syndicated radio host and host of the Aggressive Progressive podcast. You can see his work over at ChristopherHahn.com. Chris, thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks for having me, Rick. A nice quiet night.
Yeah, so nothing going on. Let's start with the general thing. I think again, it's this disconnect, history, reality, fantasy land.
He's the first president that didn't read, right? And not only that, like we know he liked to watch TV and movies, I mean, turn on the History Channel, and there's a documentary of Rommel probably on right now that talks about how he tried to kill Hitler. And, there's a movie with Tom Cruise that came out not too long ago, Valkyrie. It's about the generals trying to kill Hitler. I mean, it is mind-boggling to me that he doesn't even know that basic part of history. And he was the president of the freaking United States. And there's still 30% of this country that thinks he should be president still. It's amazing. I don't even know what to say. I mean, I'm a pundit. I talk for a living.
Yeah, well, if you look at what happened over the weekend at Crazy Pack, they loved him. That's their guy. They want more.
They've gone full crazy at CPAC. I knew Matt and Mercedes Schlapp before they were crazy, before they were con artist grifters who figured out they could become filthy rich by, peddling this nonsense conspiracy theory. But you know what? Let's be very clear. It wasn't just conspiracy theorists hanging out at CPAC. There were sitting United States senators, including Rick Scott, the senator from Florida, who's the chairman of the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee. So if you like what you saw at CPAC, elect these stupid senators they've got out there, just as crazy.
Yeah, it's something. Now let's get to the big story. I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, you've got a former president. The FBI has raided his home, and he said he writes, whoever wrote this statement for him is not wrong. I mean, this is a big deal. This is the kind of stuff that happens in third world countries. This is the kind of stuff that happens.
It's a shame that it's necessary, right? The guy took classified documents to his golf retreat in Florida. Some documents that are so classified that they cannot even be described, because to describe them, you would need to hear the description. You would need classified, special clearances. Some of these documents are only allowed to be viewed by a handful of people within our government. They are sitting at Mar-a-Lago, which has, members that come in and out all over the place. And the But Her Emails crowd is saying, how dare they try to take those documents back? Now, that's just part of it. It is freaky to me, and I'm sure you and I are about the same age. It is freaky to me that we live in a world where a former president of the United States is having his home raided by the FBI. Remember, this did not happen. This is not some FBI agent that decided to do this on their own. This is not like, something you see on TV. This was probably signed off by the Attorney General of the United States and probably several of the Assistant Attorney Generals of the United States. And it was also signed off by a federal district court judge who has lifetime tenure and does not care about politics or anything else. And for that to happen, there had to be significant evidence put into that, complaint. And there had to be real reasonable suspicion that there was a crime happening. This is bad stuff. And I also think, I'm speculating here, Rick, and I'm going to speculate. There was a story last week that Trump's lawyers told him that he should break off all contact with Mark Meadows. That suggests to me that Mark Meadows is cooperating with the FBI or the U.S. Attorney's Office or the January 6th committee. And it should be of no coincidence. It's probably not a coincidence that those two things are connected. I don't know for sure, but if I'm Mark Meadows, after watching Cassidy Hutchinson testify, I'm thinking to myself, I'm in big freaking trouble. Nobody is going to pardon me, and nobody is going to riot because I go to jail. So I better save myself. So he's probably talking, and he knows exactly what documents that Donald Trump took to Mar-a-Lago. So to me, now this is pure speculation. I don't know this I don't have any information on this at all. I was about to take my dog for a walk, and this news broke. I walked my dog. I came home. I watched a little more news. That's all I know about it. But I think, to me, those things are connected. I don't know for sure. I just feel it. And look, I'm an attorney. You know this. I just feel that it's too much of a coincidence that those two stories are happening in the same week. And this raid, this was not going to happen willy-nilly. Somebody had to say on the record to a prosecutor, this is what is at Mar-a-Lago. And it wasn't going to just be the guys from the National Archives that went down there to get their, make their inventory of what he took.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, Meadows is trying to save his skin because, Cassidy Hutchinson saving her skin. There are no heroes in
I don't think she was saving her skin. I think Cassidy Hutchinson, look, she's 23 years old. I mean, she wasn't going to jail for anything that happened there. But she took it on the chin. And right now, she's probably a pariah within her own party. She'll probably never work in politics again. She's probably getting death threats by the minute. She probably can't go out in public with these crazy MAGA people all over the place. And this is a girl who thought she was going to, a woman who thought she was going to have a career in politics and public service, who believed in what she was doing, even though her beliefs were completely twisted and wrong. But
yeah, I don't see any heroes here. I see people saving their skin. I see people saving themselves from going to jail, from being tied up in this. And I see the rats jumping ship, saving their skin. Meadows being at the top of the list.
Meadows is without a doubt saving his skin right now because Meadows is in trouble. The testimony that happened in the last couple of weeks of the January 6th committee points to Meadows really being the enabler of Trump and also being derelict in his duty. And, the White House chief of staff is one of the most powerful people in the country, in the world. And he did nothing. He sat there while our Capitol was being attacked and did nothing. And now he's probably talking. And good, let him.
Yeah, no, it's important. But here's the thing. I mean, Trump has always been, loose with classified information. I mean, back while he was president at Mar-a-Lago, there were stories of classified documents sitting on tables during parties.
By the way, this is how we know there are no aliens hidden in bunkers somewhere, because this guy would have told us. Right? There's no aliens at out in Roswell or Area 51. There's nothing like that. We haven't been visited. This guy would have been, you never would have believed what I just heard. I got this document. We would have heard it. We would have heard it by now. It would have been all over the place.
And we still don't know who killed Kennedy then, do we?
No. Clearly, Kennedy was killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. There is no secrets like that. It was 50 years ago. Why can't we tell them? I was hoping. It was the one thing. I hoped for with Donald Trump is that we would learn about the aliens.
So that's the big secret out of those whole 4 years. No aliens. All right.
No aliens. There's no aliens. I mean, here's the thing, though. Back to seriousness. What is this guy planning to do with those documents that he has at Mar-a-Lago? What did he want to do with them? These are national secrets. These are state secrets of the United States of America. What was he doing holding on to them? Why did he have those boxes of documents sent? I'll tell you why. Look, let me speculate because I don't want to be sued. He probably wanted to sell them to somebody is what he wanted to do. And that is, gross. And that is why they didn't just give him a subpoena for the documents. They raided his house, right? So
you're the lawyer here. Let's say they found stuff. Let's say he's got documents. What do they do to him?
Well, he's going to be charged with mishandling of classified information.
And what does that mean?
I don't. He's not going to jail, Rick. I mean, I've said this. Here's the thing, and I hate to say it. I say it all the time. He is never going to jail. Now, he might never run for office again, but he's never going to jail.
So my thought of him in an orange jumpsuit picking up litter on the side of the highway, that's never going to happen.
That's not going to happen. No, he's going to be moving to Scotland and playing golf and living a lot better than you or I for the rest of his days, but he ain't ever going to jail. And look, it's funny. I was musing. So I did my podcast a little while ago, right before I did your show. And I was musing about, what if Joe Biden offered him a pardon on condition that he admits his crimes and tries to heal the nation in a speech written for him, not by him? Wouldn't that be great? It'll never happen. I see you shaking your head there. It would never happen, but it would be great for America. That was just like my dream. I don't know. Maybe it's just been too hot here in New York and I'm a little loopy, but it's a shame to me that so many people in this country still believe in this guy.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm just looking at my Twitter feed right before I came on and just, people saying, you wait till we get back in power. It's not going to be fun for you.
Yeah, no,
that's what's going on here.
You go, wait a second. The message is not, nobody's punishing you. He's breaking the law. These are crimes.
Yeah. Either the law applies to everyone or it applies to no one. We're either a nation of laws or we're not. And no person, no matter what office they achieve, no matter how much money they have or influence, should be above the law. You shouldn't be able to take classified documents to your party place down in Florida. It's ridiculous.
You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with Chris Hahn, syndicated radio host of the Aggressive Progressive podcast. You want to check out his work, ChristopherHahn.com. The website will get links out on social media on how you can do that. I want to change gears a little bit because the original thought to having you on was about the big win over the weekend.
Yes.
Actually going to get something done, historic investments in dealing with climate. Haven't done that before. Good
Right.
idea. Does this now overshadow that big win? What do you?
Well, yes. I mean, Chuck was supposed to be the leadoff guest on Rachel Maddow tonight, right? Chuck Schumer, my former boss, greatest person I ever worked for. Yes, unfortunately it does. And this is a huge story. I mean, look, the bill over the weekend was a huge story. And as time goes by, campaign-wise, that bill is going to matter a lot to Democrats seeking re-election around the country and to Democrats trying to unseat Republicans, particularly in the United States Senate around the country. Why didn't you vote to reduce inflation? Now, I, for one, don't think we're going to be in as bad inflationary period in November as we are now. But we're still going to have inflation. Things are still going to be expensive. Why didn't you vote for it? What do you have against people who are diabetics? Why are you voting against capping the cost of insulin? These are great questions that you got to ask Republicans during these campaigns, and it's going to matter politically. But unfortunately, well, first of all, it's also August, and nothing tends to matter that much in August. But this is going to matter. This story that's happening tonight is a doozy, and it is going to dominate the headlines for, I would say, the next week at least. And God knows what else we're going to find out here. And this isn't the end, right? This is the beginning of something going on.
No, this is the beginning of a lot. But, in this bill, the hope is that the administration gets out and takes the victory lap. Because if Trump would have done something even, a tiny bit as good as this, this would have been the greatest thing ever. And you would have heard
the greatest
nothing
president ever. I had nothing to do with this bill's passage, but I passed this bill. Right, that would have been the whole thing, right? That would have been we would have heard pounding his chest. Joe Biden's got to take credit for this because even though it's really Chuck and Joe Manchin's win here, it's Joe Biden's win. Joe Biden's the top of the ticket, right? Joe Biden is the name on the door, and he has to take credit for this. And frankly, look, I don't usually quote the Rasmussen poll, but one came across my desk over the weekend that had Joe Biden at 43%. After I had been on national television on Thursday saying that, or maybe it was Wednesday, saying that by November, Joe Biden would be in the mid-40s, and it's not going to be as bad as people think for Democrats in November. I mean, I still don't think we're holding the House. I think gerrymandering gives them the House. But it's not going to be a 40-vote margin in the House. It's going to be maybe a 10-vote margin in the House. And when you've got a caucus as unruly as Kevin McCarthy is going to have, and I don't think Kevin McCarthy is going to be the speaker, frankly. And I think that they're going to be an unorganized mess. And I that's good.
No, it's good. Having watched some of the shenanigans over the weekend in Texas, the entertainment value of the next 2 years of Republicans, controlling the House.
Yeah. And some of the people that are controlling the House were engaged in performance art with that guy in the cell and other things. I mean, these are going to be people who are going to be ranking, they're going to be chairs of committees and subcommittees and in the majority. And now they've got to govern. Okay. How are you going to govern, Marjorie? I'd love to see it. What do you even think governing is? Can you spell governing? I mean, I think that a prerequisite for being in Congress is you need to be able to solve the Wordle at least 80% of the time. Right? And I don't think she could do that. Just saying. I don't know for sure, but I just,
It'd be a good start, or at least know what it is.
Right. Get to at least amazing on spelling bee. I don't know if you play that one too. But.
No, I don't, but at least be able to spell the word amazing. Okay.
Right.
I get the litmus test. But all good stuff. But Chris, I appreciate the time as always. Great stuff. I look forward to talking to you again real soon because I'm sure this story not going away.
Oh man.
Anytime soon.
It's may you live in interesting times. It's a curse for most people, but it's great if you're a pundit. So
No, this is this is entertaining and interesting all at the same time. Chris Hahn, appreciate the time, man.
Thanks, Betty.
Good stuff. Chris Hahn, host of the Aggressive Progressive podcast. Make sure you check out his work over at ChristopherHahn.com. We'll get links out on social media so you can check out his work. Quick break, right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. This day in labor history, the year was 1850. That was the day that two tailors who were out on strike in New York City were killed in a confrontation with the police. It is thought that they were the first workers to die while participating in a strike in the United States. They certainly would not be the last. The United States has one of the bloodiest labor histories of any industrial nation. It's estimated that at least 700 people have lost their lives to violence during a strike. The vast majority of those slain were workers. Some of the most bloody conflicts included the Great Upheaval of 1877, where across the country 100 workers lost their lives in an uprising of railway labor. Then, in 1892, the strike against Carnegie Steel in Homestead, Pennsylvania, 9 strikers and 3 Pinkerton agents died. 2 years later, 30 workers died across the country in a boycott and strike against the Pullman Palace Car Company. One of the most infamous labor massacres occurred in Ludlow, Colorado in 1914. During this coal mining strike, gun thugs hired by the company rained machine gun bullets and fire down on a tent colony of striking workers. At least 19 people were killed. 11 of them were children. In 1937, 10 workers died on Memorial Day at a demonstration against Republic Steel in Chicago. These are just some of the battles, massacres, and murders that shaped the American labor movement. Too often, the toil of this bloodshed is not taught in history classes. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So you gotta love these extreme stories of union busting, and you look across the country, Starbucks workers all over the country are organizing. In fact, last count, I think like 183 Starbucks stores have organized. They have held NLRB elections and have won those elections. I think 35 have gone down to defeat. But this one in South Carolina, kind of interesting to me. Anderson, South Carolina. The workers there went with their petition, and they marched on the boss, and they said, hey, here's our petition. We want to be recognized as a union. These are our demands. We'd like $12 an hour as a wage. We'd like you to fix all the broken stuff to make our job easier. We'd like better hours. We'd like schedule. Their demands. The kind of negotiation stuff you do in a union environment. Like we'd like better wages, hours, conditions. That stuff that unions do. Boss having no interest in it. Evidently, in the little video confrontation that happened, which is just a woman walked, basically pushed past somebody and walked past, evidently called the police and said that she was being kidnapped. Now all of the workers have been suspended and barred from going to work because of these allegations that these workers kidnapped and assaulted the manager. And it's clearly there on the TikTok video. This is clearly, not, I hope. Let me fix that. To the observer, this should be a no-brainer, but this is South Carolina after all, where you had Nikki Haley who said she wore pointy-toed shoes so she could kick unions. That was her statement. So I got to wonder, if the Anderson County Sheriff's Office is going to take these claims seriously. Now, they have closed the store, as I understand it, which is another tactic of corporate America in busting up unions and workers trying to organize. Because understand, Starbucks is a giant corporation. They can close a store for a little bit, as they've been doing across the country. And I think, how did Howard Schultz put it, the CEO? How did it go? The company's, it's reinventing itself. Now remember, they had always been kind of a hippie liberal, kind of a progressive viewed company. Latte drinking liberals go there to get their drinks. Now I guess they're reinventing themselves as angry worker hating union busters. I guess that's what we're getting. Now understand, Schultz's claim to fame really was he defeated a unionization effort back in the 80s. So they brought him out of mothballs to come and bring back and bring down the iron fist. And I guess this is how they're going to do it, by making stuff up. Now today they had a rally and a press conference where the lawyer called these allegations absurd and false. Said it was just another dimension of union busting campaign, which I'll tell you, this is a new one. I was kidnapped by those workers who just want better wages, hours, conditions. I was assaulted when I ran into them. And these workers, they just want to be able to support their families. In fact, that's what one of the workers said. Look, how are we going to put food on the table? How are we going to, pay our rent? How are we going to do the things that we need to do? Now that they've all been basically fired because they've been barred from going to this store or any others, as I understand. This is what they do. This is what corporations have been getting away with, and why we need a much more aggressive National Labor Relations Board. Now, look, I love Jennifer Abruzzo over there at the NLRB, the General Counsel. I think she's being much more aggressive. I think she needs to be much more aggressive. This is something that has to be dealt with in a truly aggressive fashion. The kind of fashion where you go, you know what? This is so beyond the bounds that, we're just going to impose a union and make you start bargaining. There has got to be a point where there's real penalty, where there is something, real consequence to these kind of allegation and actions. This kind of, Karen mentality, just amazing. I mean, I watched the video a couple of times, and I'm going, I don't know how you get there from there. In fact, I don't call for people to be fired very often, but I think that manager should be fired, because that is creating a hostile work environment. And I don't know how I don't know how anyone could ever work for that person again when they have honesty issues. And if I can throw one more thing in here, this is the reason that you need unions. This is the reason you need representation. This is the reason that you collectively come together and demand better wages, hours, conditions, opportunity. This is the reason. Because all of those people standing together had power. And that's what they were freaked out about. That's what that manager was afraid of. And that's what Starbucks is scared of. That means some of their profit, not going to go to the CEO, not going to go to the shareholders, might actually go to wages, hours, conditions, might actually go to the working people. And they can't have that. Might hurt their bottom line.
A week doesn't go by now when there isn't a devastating example of the deadly power of a changing climate.
Back-to-back extreme storms show the U.S. is not ready for climate impacts.
And while temperatures are reaching near records, it's the humidity that's making the conditions more dangerous.
Yep, climate change is also increasing humidity across the U.S. Big corporations launch ad blitz to sink Democrats' budget deal. Plus,
it's a chicken and egg thing, but we want to make sure that charging is ubiquitous.
America's first ever national EV charging network is on its way.
All of those firsts and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Water isn't the only thing we're running out of. Clean air, quality soil, rainforests, wetlands, the precious metals that make our phones work. We're even running out of sand. Sand, which may not seem important, but without it you can't make concrete or glass, like for windows, so you can look outside and see the world ending.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.